and welcome to Baarns Heller this week. And Melissa just showed up here. So here's the cool thing. Mr. Heller was sick a couple weeks ago. Many of you know that if you've been following the show. And because of that, they had ended up rescheduling a book, and he's only doing, I mean, it's only on the Kennedys, and it's only has a director and a bunch of, it's a big deal, okay? It's a major production. And because he was ill for a few days there, they ended up rescheduling, and they just work in schedule. So he's like one of those guys that wants to work for a living and is at the mercy of a major publisher because he's going in. He's not doing it from home. So he's going to miss today, but I'm super happy. Melissa's joining me, and we've known each other for a few years. So I'm going to talk a little bit. Yeah, hey, Colette, thanks for chiming in there. It's really helpful. So Melissa, let me let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll have a good discussion about it. So, and I'll read some of this, okay? But I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I got a bunch of great stuff and we've known each other for I think maybe 5 years or so. So, of course, she's an audiobook narrator. She's based out of New Orleans. She's done this really cool things, and I have to read this. She's a myofascial therapist, and she's going to tell us how to pronounce that. And a thigh body worker, Thai body worker, helping people improve. Anyway, here's the cool thing. Before she did narration, did all sorts of health related stuff. Her and I met, I don't know, 5+ years ago. It may go back 7 years, something. We did some tech work together. We did all sorts of stuff, and then we've been at the New England Narrators Retreat together. We in the morning we would get up before these events and we would jump rope, or she would go to the gym. And as I was learning to jump rope a few years ago, she helped me with some stuff and showed me some cool videos and fun stuff. And I know she does CrossFit, so I could throw that in there. And at a level that embarrasses me and makes me feel like a slug, but she's always been super nice about it and helped me with a bunch of little things related to health and fitness. And one of my go-to people for discussing how to be healthier. And some of us are not as young as we used to be. Okay. So for my age challenge friends, it seems like you'll live forever and you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. And I'm in my 60s now, we'll just say that. And what I can tell you is it does not get easier unless I do something on a regular basis. And Melissa's one of my go-to people to discuss, hey, what's happening in this area? And she's been hyper nice about it in terms of, if you know anybody that's done CrossFit at any level, you know that these are intense people when they are working out on their own. It's just crazy. It's one of the most intense things I've seen. And it is borderline nuts. Okay, so we'll say that. Now I'm not
You
saying
can
she
say
is.
it's
I'm
nuts.
just saying
Yes.
CrossFit is. And but it does give. Here's the cool thing about it. The perspective that anybody that I know that's done CrossFit is, it all seems nearly impossible to do when you watch it from the outside. And anybody that's in it figures out that there's a process and that they start at one point and they can't do any of it, and then they work their way up so that they can do this insane amount. But they work with a bunch of other people, they're inspired, they work with groups of people, and they find ways to make incremental improvements over a long period of time. And so, Melissa, welcome to the show. Happy you're here. Let's talk about everything health related. Why does anybody care? So, how you doing today?
Oh, Don, it's so great to be here chatting with you. And sorry Johnny or Lisa couldn't be in here to class up the joint, but it's just
Yeah,
just you
especially.
and me
Well,
down dirty.
you're classing up the joint. I'm here.
Oh,
Matter of fact, people have said you're a. Pronounce this for me. Myofascial. Um, how do you say
no,
it?
wrong.
Okay.
Okay. Look up Forvo and Youglish. Go to your resources, Don. No. It's myofascial therapy is what I did. And I don't do hands-on anymore. But I do consulting. And so myo means muscle
Okay.
and fascia
Hmm.
is I could probably talk for the rest of the hour about it, but I promise to tamp it down and hold back, and I will not. But just so that you know what it is, I'll try to briefly explain that fascia is a tissue in our bodies that well, back in the dark ages when you and I were in, junior high or high school,
Yeah.
and they told us about anatomy or taught us about anatomy, we had diagrams, and it showed bones, and it showed muscles, right? And it
Yes.
didn't show any other tissue in between, maybe showed some nerves or blood vessels, so fascia is a tissue that hasn't been it wasn't studied up until about 30 years ago, and, um, partly the reason was because, um, when you dissect a cadaver, the fascia is very changed, especially if the cadaver's been embalmed, um,
Oh,
and
yeah,
so
I have
pe
extensive experience with that, so,
well, people didn't know what it was because they just didn't see it, um, but with time, technology, and doing different types of dissection, it's been highly studied. In fact, you know how we have APAC, we have a whole conference for
yeah,
the
that's
Audio Publishers Association. They have fascial conferences,
oh,
and with
well,
doctors and body workers and people who
that sounds like a
yes.
real joy, yeah.
It's a big deal, it's a
Okay.
big deal, but you've probably all seen it. Anybody who has either hunted or prepared chicken for dinner,
Mhm.
you have seen fascia.
Okay.
Um, it comes in all forms in your body. It threads like, it's called connective tissue. You've heard that probably. So fascia is connective tissue, and it's all throughout your entire body. It's around every bone, every blood vessel, every organ, between muscles, over muscles. Your tendons and your ligaments are made of this same tissue. But also there's this real filmy type of fascia that you've seen when you're cutting up a chicken breast.
Okay.
If you've ever cut up a chicken breast, have you done that?
I have done that.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I know.
And you
I don't look like I could cut any food up or that anyone that I would be
but
any sort of chef. Yes.
I know, but you might want a chicken pizza, and I know you like
Correct.
pizza.
Yes, yes.
So, you're cutting your chicken breast,
Mhm.
and you get to this filmy stuff that's
Yep.
kinda clear, kinda
Yep.
white,
Yep.
and it's really hard to cut it
Yep.
because it's, like, strung together or stuck together. Um, that's an example of that's myofascia because it's muscle fascia. It's the
So,
fascia that's covering muscles.
all right. So, all right. Let me ask the $100,000 question. Why do I care about that if I'm a narrator? I mean, now,
So funny. I know it's true. Well,
no, but here's
you
the
should.
thing. I suspect, though, that gives you some insights into a lot of other things health related because you're understanding a bunch of parts about the body that dumb old me has no clue about. All I know is that at my age, that if I don't do some exercising and do a better job with my diet, it is very hard to sit and be productive on a day-to-day basis. And you have a background that probably you understand why that some of that is. But how does all this affect some of the narrators? What have you found that people who do what I do, and that's sit for way too many hours, uh, what's the effect on my tissues because I do that sort of thing?
Right, right. Because fascia is extremely important, an important tissue in the body because it's everywhere. Like I said, if you could just eliminate all the other tissues, eliminate your muscles, your bones, your skin, you would still look like a human form if all you left was fascia.
Right,
So it is holding us together, it is keeping us together, it is all connected from head to toe, and it can become dysfunctional from sitting too long, poor posture, dehydration, stress. Now we're getting close to like your answer. Like, how does this affect me? Why do I care about fascia?
right,
Because a lot of times we'll just think it's our muscles. Oh, or
right.
if we sit hunched
Mm-hmm,
over time, the fascia that's involved in all that hunching
mm-hmm.
is going to become permanent. Did your mother ever say, "Don't make that face. It's
Yes,
gonna stick"? I mean, probably
right.
mothers don't say that anymore, but I've
They
heard that.
mine did, yes. In fact,
Well, she wasn't wrong.
that's the problem, clearly. my case. Okay. So yes.
But right, she wasn't wrong because fascia will do that. If you spend hours and hours in a sitting position, all of the fascia in the front of your body as well as your muscles, it's all connected, but all of that fascia is going to be in a stuck position, and then the muscles and fascia in the back of your body are going to be overstretched. Um, so this is why it's important, because it's important to our posture and it's important to our overall health. Um, so just knowing that it's there uh is a start.
Right.
And keeping it healthy is really important to our jobs because we need our bodies, of course, to
Yeah.
do our work.
Right.
This is a very physical job. People don't realize how much physicality is involved in narrating, whether you sit or stand to narrate. But it, you need your respiratory system to operate and function properly, um, in order to simply get the breath out and the words out. And if you sit hunched,
Right.
um, you are compressing organs in your body, including your lungs, your diaphragm, your stomach, your pancreas. And sitting for long periods of time sitting for long periods of time can even affect you down to the cellular level, can make you insulin resistant. It just slows everything down. If you're compressing your organs, they're not able to reach their full capacity to function properly. And the longer you sit like that, the more the harder it is to get back to having good posture, because because of fascia. And I know I sent you some links, but there's one, it's called the fuzz speech, and it's an anatomist named Gil Headley, and the video is kind of old, but it's like one of those timeless things like Sean Pratt's M why do you want, or do you really wanna be a narrator video, or sit in
Right.
the closet with like, it doesn't matter how old that gets, it never gets old. That's how, the fuzz speech is from Gil Hadley, and, at some point, if you throw that in the chat and people have a chance to look at it, it's really good because he talks about how overnight, he talks about what fascia is and he shows it like in a cadaver. So beware if you're squeamish and you don't want to see that, just close your eyes. But he shows how it's so changeable, and that's exactly what fascia is. It's very liquidy and changeable, but it also builds up. So as you sleep, the fascia creates more fibers. It's made out of collagen and elastin fibers in this kind of gel matrix. But as you sit still or sleep, sitting still, maybe narrating or sleeping or sitting still watching TV or whatever, um, little fibers are sent to those muscles, and they kind of build up. And in the morning, when you stretch, it he uses the word melts. It really like hydrates
Okay.
through, but anyway, it it releases that so that the fascia that's between muscles, and muscles are supposed to be able to slide over each other,
Okay.
and but if there's a bunch of fascia in there, there's less sliding, and the more fascia that is built up in there without being like broken apart by stretching or moving or exercising,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
seen the 90-year-old people that
Okay.
can't get
You
up.
see the 60-year-old people. So see, I go back. uh, my, no one cares about my backstory directly, but I about 6 7 years ago, one of my adult sons, not Donnie, his younger brother, basically said to me, it was a little bit more direct than this, but he said, "Hey, you should go to the gym with me and my friend." And it's like, why? Okay. Well, let's just say you're not at your best shape you've been in your life, and you need to, yeah. Why don't you come with us to the gym? So I started going with my son. We're going back 6 7 years ago. This was before I ever jumped rope, and before you and we ever said anything about jumping rope. But the thing that happened for me was I had been sitting for anywhere from 10 to some days 14 hours. This was early in my career where I was editing for a bunch of high profile narrators. I just had so much work coming in. I literally could sit for 14 hours a day working on projects if I chose to. And I would just sit for way too long. I had snacks at my desk. I had drinks at my desk. I could have put a porta potty in here if almost practically the way I was working. Not bad visual for that, but uh, and my son basically said, "Hey, Dad, you really need to do something." I had gained weight. I was probably 20 pounds more than I am now, and that started my journey of getting out. And the weird is like, David, I don't have time to do this. And he's like, "No, come on," and he convinced me. After I did it for a couple months, I was like, "Darn." I'm getting more done in 10 hours than I was getting in 14 hours. I'm getting more
Ah.
done in 4 hours than I was getting in 6 hours. And it got me back to working out again and on a whole new trajectory. Thankfully, I had a son who was pretty direct, and he wasn't super nice. He wasn't Mr. Dale Carnegie about it. He was pretty much, you really need to get out with us. So what was I doing wrong, and why all of a sudden now, today, I get a lot more done in less time, and I have a tendency to exercise virtually every day. Why in the world has it made a positive difference for when I'm sitting around?
Brain chemistry is one, because exercising does more than, I'll just say, moving. I won't exercising. People have a tendency to like focus on one certain thing when someone says exercising, but just say moving, um, with purpose is it changes your brain chemistry.
Uh,
It can, and some people can even um, get out of being depressed or reduce or eliminate some of the drugs that they're on, like antidepressants, with exercise, because it does change. It changes your hormones and your brain chemistry. And there's another good video about that. Um, it's a TED talk. It's Amy Cuddy. And she talks about how our bodies change our mind and how our mind changes our body. And it's so fascinating because they did research on this and experiments where they actually tested people's saliva,
okay.
and then this wasn't directly related to exercise per se or moving per se, but it was had to do more with fascia, because it was about being open. And when I say being open, that means that the front of your body is open and the back of your body is more closed. Where in our culture, we tend to be very closed in the front of our body and very spread out and open in our back, like hunching, for
How does
instance.
that affect my narration, though? What do you mean by closed?
Okay, so closed would be um shoulders rolled forward, the back is overstretched. You kind of leaned over at the waist.
Hmm.
It's hunching. Okay, just think of hunching.
Okay.
Okay, and as
Uh,
I said before, that's gonna be compressing your diaphragm and your lungs. That's directly gonna affect your quality of narration. And it's going to affect your chemistry, in your brain and your neurochemicals, because if this is why I'm telling you about the Amy Cuddy thing, because she explains it so well about, we tend to wanna be small sometimes, particularly women, and hunching and slouching and all those things make us small, where the opposite of that, being open in the front, is what's called a power pose. And you cannot get into a power pose if you've been hunching and slouching for years, and y and things have become stuck, fascia has become stuck, bones have become stuck. Um, their bones are then working joints are then working out of alignment when you're hunched, and that makes you more prone to injuries. But back to the power pose, they actually did, like, tested people's saliva and, hormones that make you feel more confident, more powerful. Hey, we all need that when we're about to start a new book, right?
Right.
Um, those hormones are highly increased um, with the power pose. So she tells her audience just to try it for 2 minutes, strike a power pose, and in only 2 minutes, it changes your levels of testosterone and cortisol.
Ah,
Testosterone goes up, cortisol goes down. And it's actually amazing. Like, so a power pose is anything that's open. You can imagine power poses, like what they call it, the man spread or whatever,
yeah.
or you,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
hands
Hands
on the
on the
hips.
hips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back,
Superman.
leaning,
Yeah.
right, leaning back on the chair. Everything's wide open in the front. And we tend not to do that in our culture. We tend to sit in front of our computer and
Right.
look at our phone, and it's folded forward, and it's making our brain have that demeanor. I mean, it's making us be that way because our brain, our mind, and our body are absolutely connected. And I know when I was a therapist, I had some clients who I would notice they were detached. It was like their head and their body were two entirely different things. They had no idea what was going on with their body. And body awareness is super important for this because first you have to be aware of it in order to make any kind of changes.
Okay, so let's say this. I'm doing zero like I was when I started this. I need to allocate an hour a day, 15 hours a day to movement. Where do I start?
Yeah, 15 hours a day is recommended.
Okay, okay, cool. I'm in.
Working
I'm in.
out
You got
hard
me.
in the gym.
You got me at 15 hours.
Now you're asking me, like, what should I do if I don't do anything?
Yeah, so I'm starting off. So right now, this was it really, this was me absolutely. If you go back approximately 8 years ago, plus or minus a couple, I don't remember the exact time frame. I was sitting and basically would tell you, I don't have time. And remember, I did a bunch of exercising when I was in my 30s. I hired a personal trainer in my 30s. I literally would go 2, 3 times a week and work with a personal trainer. This was my 30s. I'm over 60 now, so let's spend a minute. And I have been an exerciser intermittently over the years, but I had not kept it up, and I had at least 5 to 10 years of, not actually more than that, probably 15 years of 5 kids and running a business. And this was before I was doing narrating. I was doing computer work, and I'd sit at the computer and I would work, and I didn't do anything. So now getting started is not simple.
Absolutely. And I mean, I totally get that. And I don't expect people, or I'm not sitting here telling people go out and join your CrossFit gym in your town. No, you do not have to be a super athlete. You do not have to be super strong, but you do have to move. um and it could be anything. If you're currently very sedentary, it's okay. If you can get up, if you can go outside and walk to the neighbor's mailbox and back, do that. I mean, if you're in a wheelchair and you can roll to the neighbor's mailbox, you're moving then. Almost, I wanna say, I know this sounds pretty hard, but there's almost no excuse. People do have excuses. They do have busy lives. They do have pain. They do have, there are a lot of reasons that people don't want to move.
Okay.
But I will tell you, in CrossFit, which you talked about as a very intense form of working out, we have adaptive CrossFit. And I have a visually impaired friend
Mm-hmm.
who now coaches it. He became blind in his 50s. And he now coaches adaptive CrossFit. So there are amputees, there are people with every kind of disability and every age. There are 92-year-old people that do CrossFit. It's just that it's adapted and scaled and modified for their ability,
Okay.
period. So there's actually, like, when I think, if I if I were to, like, hurt my knee or something like that, um, there and I think I never think, "Oh, I can't exercise anymore. I can't go to the gym anymore," because I know that isn't true. I've seen these people with my own eyes, and so if you can if it and the it doesn't have to be formal exercise either. I wanna keep saying moving, although I keep saying exercise, I mean moving. Anything you like to do that involves movement is absolutely perfect. If you like dancing, if you like yoga is fabulous. And I don't even do yoga. I like yoga. I mean, I don't like yoga. I don't do it. But it's probably one of the best things for your fascia that you can possibly do. Um but any kind of movement, walking, riding a bike, you know, um
Well, I will say this so we're all going to be a little bit different in this. If I do it all by myself, I struggle.
yeah.
Where I am probably the absolute best and the easiest thing for me when I got started with this. So my son, David, asked me to do it, and started going over to the gym with him. It is 400% easier for me to have somebody I've agreed at 11:30 we're meeting at the gym, at noon we're meeting at the gym. One, I don't like giving them an excuse more than occasionally that I can't make it. So, and
Mhm.
we're all different in this, but I suspect that many of us do better with some variation of an accountability partner or somebody we're meeting to get started. Today I can do it. I do it on my own, meaning that I did jump rope yesterday all by myself in my living room, put on some music. I have a little system now. I have a system that I do for doing all this stuff, but that took me a while. And my neighbor who's also my exact same age, roughly, and we started going over together. I mean, it started with my son, and he was doing stuff way beyond what I could do, and it's like, and so my neighbor and I both are in our 60s. We started going to the gym, and I guarantee you, in my case, and you have to find your own, by having somebody else that I was meeting there, that I was going with, that I had committed to, hey, tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, or we would text each other in the middle of the day, hey, let's go at 6. I just got bothered where it was like, Ernie wants to go. The days that I didn't feel like doing it, he would call me and he would give me a hard time. What? You're not going? Yeah. And then I would turn it around. The days he didn't feel like going, I was the one. And between the two of us, we actually got into a groove. And once you get over that little hill, so serving suggestion, I mean, maybe you see it. For me, if I have a time or a place or a person that I'm supposed to be and people are expecting me, that's totally different than doing it by myself until I got to a certain point. Is that what you see? Is that help?
Well, I mean, I 100% agree with you because you said the word accountability. Just like just like in our narration business, it's always recommended to have an accountability buddy or two or small groups or something to
Yeah.
keep each other going. And absolutely, and that's one thing that I love about CrossFit is that we do the workouts together as a group. And no matter what level you're at, no matter how much weight you can throw around or over your head or whatever, you're you're in the group. And actually, if you're the worst in the group, you get the most attention because everyone finishes finishes their workout and they're all cheering for you. So it's really supportive. So there's a lot of support there. But if you're not joining some kind of group dance or exercise thing, which there are bazillions of them out there, um, even some people can do just fine with online or YouTube,
Mm,
uh, some kind of programs, and you can find anything on, you can find beginners yoga or dancing or jump rope or whatever to follow somebody online now. So
right.
if and even that person, even though they're not texting you in the morning saying, "Hey, did you get your butt out of bed yet? Because we're going." Um, at least at least they're right there, handy.
Yeah. And they're
And
putting out content at a crazy level these days.
look, even okay, I've been doing CrossFit for 9 years, and even I still do this mind trick where I put my clothes out. I ask Siri what the temperature is going to be in the morning at the time I go. at 8 a.m. and then I pick out what I'm gonna wear to the gym based on how what the temperature is, and I put it on top of my dresser, and the first thing I do when I get out of bed is just put it on,
Oh,
and
smart, smart, smart,
that's
smart.
that's half the thing.
Yeah,
If I'm already dressed for it,
yeah.
like, why am I not going? I don't I can't just lay there and go, "Oh, but this bed feels so good."
Here's the funny, the one thing I can say. I don't remember ever finishing a workout and thinking that was a waste of time.
Right.
I've
Yeah.
certainly skipped them occasionally. Like I don't have time. I've said that way too many times. I'm a work in progress on this stuff. I suspect I'm more consistent than most, but that took me multiple years to get to that point. And today, if my friend Ernie can't make it, and there are many times where we don't work out together anymore, I now have enough momentum that I can do it on my own. But I don't know that I
Yeah.
would have gotten there without a couple years of him and I doing it consistently together and reached a point where I have enough benefits that I don't want to miss more than like I here's my simple rule. If I have to miss a day, I'm not happy about it, but I do it and it's life. I try never to miss 2 days in a row. And also, anybody who's been here on this show before knows I'm obsessed with pickleball. And and there's nothing magical about pickleball other than the fact that in order to be competitive, and if you're a competitive person like me, and you must be if you do CrossFit a little bit, by doing pickleball, I got out there on the court and realized, cripe, I can't move the way I did, so I'm now like doing body weight squats and I'm realizing, ooh, I have to work at a couple little movement things. Otherwise, I cannot play the game at the level that I would like to play it. So it's been a real incentive. So find your passion would be a something that I'm guessing. How do you advise people? Do you care what they do?
No, not at all, as long as they do something. And, and now we have, watches that tell us
Oh yeah,
how many steps we've made. So we have accountability that we can use, if we want to make improvements. Um, so yeah, absolutely. And pickleball is a great example. That's a very social sport. And I mean, a lot of them are, some people like to play softball or, you know, on a sand volleyball team.
yeah.
Any of that, anything, any kind of movement is better than zero movement. That's all, no matter what it is.
And it pays you back. So I mean, let's talk about that. Uh, The one thing that bothered me about it was I kept saying I didn't have time. This before David, intervened. I had an intervention from my son. And when your kids get old enough, if you don't have them,
Yeah, they
they will
do.
do that. If not, some other relative or friend, but there was an
Yeah, usually
intervention.
it's my daughter's telling me, "Mom, don't wear that."
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear
I,
you.
yeah. Dad, those jeans are like 40 years old. Don't do that. You look anyway. I have two daughters that both tell my boys they could care less. They go, well, you're ugly. You're gonna be ugly. Don't worry about. My girls are like, don't wear that. What? Oh, no, no, no. It's too okay. All right. I just asked them, what do we do? So that's my fashion control. And then, of course, if Costco sells it, that's about my level of okay. As long as it's there, I'll buy it. Um, but as far as this other stuff goes, it is definitely having somebody else, and the social aspects of it are fun. Find something fun for yourself. You and I were doing jump rope when we went to the conferences. Here was the funny thing. I was sleep deprived because it was on the East Coast. Flying in, I'm 3 hours out of sync, and I found that as long as I got up, got some sunshine for a few minutes, 5, 10 minutes outside,
Yep.
and then did something. I needed to do jump rope. I needed to go to the little gym and just do some base stuff or walk around the complex. Any of those would work. And then of course now I have a dog and we walk almost every single day and have for the last year, and that's really helped as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yep, all those things count. Yeah, we got up bright and early in New England and found some kind of place to go and
We did.
down you had your little Tabata music all
Yes.
set up, which was really good, and we would jump like crazy, and people joined us, and that was fun. See, we had accountability and we had a little small group,
And we
And
were only doing 10 minutes of it though. So make sure people keep the perspective. We didn't have all day at these conferences to sit and exercise, but we dedicated 10 minutes before the day started to go ahead and do some basic jump rope stuff. And there were people at all different levels that were there showing up to it. And there was also a yoga class that was going on in parallel.
yes,
So some people were going and doing yoga. Some people were walking around before. But if you have to sit in a conference and listen to, I was a panelist, so listen to bozos like me for a period of time, having done something physical beforehand makes life a whole lot better. And I survive the time zone changes by making sure that every morning I get up and do something before I have to sit in conferences and things like that. Have you had
yeah.
similar experience?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's the same with sitting or standing in our booth. So
Oh
let's
yeah,
let's
let's talk about
let's
that.
bring it
Well,
back to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
narration
So,
'cause
is it better? I'm going to interrupt you. Is it
hmm?
better to sit or to stand? What's the ultimate
Ah,
answer?
there is no answer.
Okay. Oh,
It's
yeah, but
it's a personal
if
preference.
I'm sitting, I'm constricting everything.
No,
Nobody can
not
sit and narrate, can they? You can't act while you're sitting.
some people can't act while they're sitting or standing,
Okay,
but
that's me. That's me. All right, you got me. Go ahead.
um, no, it's a personal preference.
Hmm.
It's just that whichever one you feel more comfortable with, you kinda need to follow a few little uh, rules of thumb, is that the word?
Okay.
That sounded funny. Little guidelines that will help you maintain your alignment during your sitting or standing and narrating. So, let's start with standing.
Okay.
I stand, right? You sit. So, um, when you're standing to narrate, um, some people have a tendency to put all their weight onto one leg, like a lean,
Okay.
with a hip out. Um, and over time, that's not going to happen if you narrate like that one day. But over time, if you stand for a long time with that imbalance of all weight on one side, you are going to have consequences to your hips, your lower back, and that translates all the way up. We are all connected, believe me. I've done human dissections, and we are all connected from head to toe, side to side, wrapped around. There's nothing that's like in the diagrams where there's the bicep muscle. Oh, here's the hamstring muscle. It's not like that. It's all connected with connective tissue or fascia. So if you're standing there and out of balance, you are going to end up eventually feeling that in some way with some kind of weakness. One side is going to become weaker and more prone to injury, or you're just going to be having aches and pains suddenly, and you're not going to know why. So standing, I recommend if you're going to stand to narrate, try to balance the weight on both legs equally. Use uh um what's the mat. It just went out of my
Oh,
head.
so one of those standing
The
mat type things that like
Yeah,
they use in
yeah,
restaurants and all over the place at cash
anti-fatigue, yeah, anti-fatigue mat.
anti-fatigue. Okay.
Like a cushiony mat for
Hmm.
your legs.
Yeah, yeah.
Or use compression socks if you feel like your legs are getting tired. Um, if that's what you like, standing. I personally like standing because it helps me stay more open.
Okay.
So, now I can sit and narrate, but just the way my stuff is all configured, I like standing. Um, so if you like sitting to narrate, that's a whole nother set of guidelines. And it has everything to do with alignment and not hunching, not having your head forward, like your chin forward and like you're trying to read.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
my goodness,
people lean
and I'm
into
here.
their mics sometimes. I see that. And it's like, oh no, 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 no. Move your mic so that you
Yes,
can just be in good posture. It's easy to move the mic and get it in the right spot rather than doing this kind of thing where I'm over at my mic and trying to read off the
yeah,
side. Yeah, that's definitely a negative.
exactly.
By the way,
So tuck
so,
in your chin. What do we have
so
funny comments?
oh, we always have funny comments. And but so a lot of people do this, by the way. Uh, like my wife comes from a singing background, and so when she was singing, and that's her college degree of classical voice, and pretty much classical vocalists sing. So when she started this, I mean, they sing, they stand. That's just the
Yeah.
way you perform. That's the standard for performing there. So she came into this and she wanted to stand. Cool, we'll set it up that way. But after time, she said, let's see. I see all these other actors that have to that sit and perform well, and she's transitioned to sitting. I do see that for a lot of people. I think probably because you did CrossFit, that also helps you be able to deal with that at a different level. And hats off to you. Not something I could do at this age, or anyway. So I'm a sitter, but I have to move my seat back. So I'm sitting on the front edge of my seat and not sitting back, leaning back. Uh,
Right.
and so my posture, like I'm always sliding my chair back, sitting a certain way. How do I know that I'm doing it right or wrong?
Well, there are several ways of knowing whether you're doing it right or wrong, and one is how you feel.
Right.
But if your head is completely disconnected from your body and you don't know how you feel, then you might need some help. So, one thing that um, I recommend sitting at your however you sit to narrate and have someone take a picture of you
Oh,
from the side and see where is everything because basically, your chin should be tucked, not sticking out forward, but tucked because we all have a tendency with all of our devices and everything to have forward head posture, which leads to a whole chain of events that people deal with all the time because it's just a bad habit that we just happen to develop by not paying attention to our posture. So chin tucked, your ear should be in alignment with your shoulder from the side, and then your shoulder should be over your hips, and your hips and your knees should be at about 90 degrees. Um, and then your feet should be on the floor flat, not crossed, not ankles crossed, but aligned. And you don't have to, that makes it sound kind of robotic, like, oh, I want you to sit like this mechanical, this perfect mechanical toy soldier or something. No, but it is natural alignment, and when everything is in alignment, it works better.
so I'm
So
gonna
that's
guess if I have some bad habits, though, that would quote feel natural for me, and that's why you're suggesting getting a different point of view by either having a photograph or someone needs to call you, and you guys are going to work through and guarantee that
yeah.
check and validate that people are doing it right. Because I'm gonna guess what feels natural to me might not be right because I've spent X number of years at a certain posture. Close?
That's exactly right, right. So the longer it goes on, the more it's gonna feel like, "Well, this is natural, I'm relaxed," but really you're sitting like this. And what happens is your back muscles and your stabilizer muscles get weak. So it feels like it's a lot of effort to sit up straight or stand up straight because those muscles have gotten overstretched and weakened.
Okay.
And so you kind of have to build those back up. But I do consultations where I do what I just said. I'll meet with people on a mobile device where they can show me
Okay.
and so, if you get if you either have somebody take a photo of you or a video of you at work, and see what you're doing, or contact me and I'll help you with it too.
Awesome.
So, that's 2 ways.
Yep. And so Larry mentions that for commercial VO work, he was advised do your best work standing. Um, and Larry, I will say this because I know now some very high profile, um, both narrators and voiceover people. And I see it both ways. There are some people can do amazing work sitting if they're doing animation and they're doing lots of hours, but also if they're doing commercials, there are. So some of it is I do think, and great actors, you see it on film all the time. They can have a very dramatic scene, and they're sitting at a table because that was the setting for it, and they have to sit because that was where it was. That was just the moment of that scene. So you see it in actors, and I live here close to Hollywood, so I get a few different perspectives on things where people who are great actors can do it sitting, they can do it standing, And so I don't really, first off, I'm not an expert at that, but I can tell you for even commercial VO work, there are some people here in LA that are smoking it and they sit 100%. And there are a whole boatload of people that stand. If you went into a studio, you almost always stood.
Mhm.
Well, here's the thing. People think that's because that's how you do your best work. The reality is, singers always stood. You go into a studio, and most of the engineers were used to originally dealing with singers. There are plenty that specialize in voiceover today. But if you go back, they were always working with musicians, and almost all of them stood. So when voiceover artists came in, they just set it up the same way, going, "Wow, that's singing, voiceover, it's all the same." It ain't really the same, but it's similar enough, and so that's why you will see if you walk into a studio, 90% of the time it's going to be set up in a standing configuration. That is not because it is the best way to do your best work. It is the history, starting with singing. And if you have to project to the back of the room or you're singing something intense, can you do it sitting? Opera singers sometimes have scenes where they sit, but it's just that culture grew up over hundreds of years where they were singing to the back of the theater, and then now that translates over. It does take some work to do it when you're sitting. You do have to modify it, but I just know too many
Yep,
people that can do it both ways, and people can be successful with both.
yep.
But man, if you're not, all the singers, I love watching them because they work on their posture sitting, they work on their posture standing, and they'll nail it both ways. Your experience with that, Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree that standing it does not make you a better narrator at all. And some people are just fine with sitting. And yeah, I mean, totally agree. Um as far as being open, if you feel like you have been hunching, if you feel like you're a narrator who's been hunching over and leaning into the microphone and your head is forward and you need to like make some adjustments, um, you could try standing because it's kind of easier to make the adjustments standing and
Yeah,
then translate those into sitting. So, like you
that
said,
makes.
Lisa started out standing
Yep,
and she's transitioned into sitting.
yep,
So once you're able to get good have good posture and know what it feels like. That's the thing. Sometimes people don't know what it feels like because they're so conditioned to feel that their body is in a natural position and it really isn't.
right.
But once so they even have these like training things, these like straps that you can
Oh
put
yeah,
on
yeah.
for posture. And I don't recommend those like, oh, everyone should go out and buy one of those. But if you do and you feel what it feels like,
I have one.
you do. How do you
I,
like it? Do you use it?
I don't use it as. Here's where it came out. When I was younger, I did some salsa dancing, and the instructor
Ah,
who was there had these little things, and they're straps, and you want to have a certain posture if you're a lead at dancing, and if you are all hunched over and all, it just doesn't work as well. So she
right.
had these things, and I bought one, and here's what I found. You really need to do it in the rest of your life. Like I'm gonna equate this back to breathing. I don't believe you can go in the booth and breathe one way and then all the rest of your life take your breaths a different way. You need to practice that when you're not in the. I'm gonna guess if I want to have a reasonable posture in the booth. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I need to work on that in my regular life, like when I'm eating dinner or when I'm having a conversation with a friend. And by the way, I'm doing it here while you're on it because I'm thinking
I know.
I gotta have some good posture here for a change. Uh, but it it's about doing it when you're not under because I think I want to be focused on the performance, which means I need to have that stuff almost be automatic because I practiced it in other situations. Is that close? Is that even
That's exactly right. Yes. Bing bing. A plus plus plus.
okay? Well, I learned it from something else though. If I wanted to do something on the dance floor because you have to have certain things that have become automatic and a part of you. The posture was one of those things that I didn't. You're worried about the music, and you're worried about your partner, and you're worried about the floor craft, what's going on around you, and you don't. So I don't want to be thinking about where are my shoulders Okay.
Right, right,
So
right.
that part needed to be automatic by working on it outside of it. And I really think a lot of this stuff is finding your own system so that you can work on it and make some things automatic. Is that close?
Yep. I'm gonna give you an everyday thing that you can change
Cool.
because I'm into like, let's just make little changes. I'm never going to give you like, okay, here's what you have to do, an hour's worth of these stretches, and then you have to do this. I'm never going to say that if you're trying to just have improved posture while you're working. But here's one, and this isn't while you're working. It's one of, like you said, something that you can just do in your daily life when you're driving. Um, how did you learn to put your hands on the steering wheel, Don?
Oh, when I was young, it was 2 and 10 o'clock.
Yes. Yeah, 10 and 2. So
Ten,
you're driving.
right.
You can't see me, but I'm
Yeah.
driving, and
Yep.
my hands are up here. Well, when you do that, where do your shoulders go? I don't know if you can see it, but wait, this way.
They would have to
Where
go.
do my shoulders go?
They go a little bit forward.
Forward,
Yeah.
right. Okay, we're trying to counteract that in our
Mm,
everyday life. We don't wanna do everything forward. We're already looking at our phones forward. We're already sleeping forward sometimes. We're already sitting on a couch. So, when we're driving, and this is now backed up by the, National Highway Safety Council or whatever they're called, um, they have changed, and it just happens to be in perfect alignment with what's good for your posture because now they're saying, 6 and 8.
yeah, I heard that, but they can't be right because I have years of doing it the wrong way. Then.
I know, but see how it's like it's exactly what you said. It's like it feels awkward and it
Right.
feels
Right.
weird, but the reason they changed it, the safety council, is because people were when the airbags were deploying and people's hands were here, they were then punching themselves with their knuckles in their
Ah.
head, in their face. So now they say it's safer to drive. Now, if everyone who's listening, put your hands at 6 and 8 o'clock on the old, the old fashioned clock face.
Right.
And where are your shoulders now?
Yeah. So if I do them this way versus this way,
Right.
yeah,
You
it
can
makes a
feel them
difference.
rolling forward
Yes.
in the socket. When you go to the top, you
So
feel them roll forward.
now this is not messed up though. Everything I learned as a child was is always right, isn't it? Forever.
What? What?
About everything I learned as a youngster is always valid for the rest of my life. I don't need
Oh,
to
yeah,
change.
that food pyramid,
Yes.
exactly.
Okay.
That's all right, yeah.
Yeah. So somebody's asked. Dave asked a question here. Are you saying that singing vocal training translates best to VO? First, I'll give my point of view, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it translates. Singers have the ability and need to be able to project, to be able to produce a lot of sound with a certain amount of air. And in order to get the most out of the body to do that, they tend to have excellent posture because it allows them to be more efficient in their sound creation. And instrumentalists have the same thing. The way you operate a piano, the way your wrists are one way or the other, if you're going to play for hours, how you do it matters. And there are best practices. Now, you will find exceptions to everything in life, like somebody's learned to do it in a funky way. But if you did 100 people, there are some things that they figured out over time. So I don't know, does singing translate into the best for VO, but I guarantee you that anybody who's sung at a level where they've had some training about how to produce great sound in a way that won't hurt their body. Like Adele ended up with her having to have her surgery on her vocal cords. And that simply becomes from the way she was singing as a younger person caused some damage over time. And you'll see it among a lot of singers that are not well trained. Classical vocalists, man, they sing for crazy amounts of time for a crazy number of years and they don't hurt their instrument. So singers have some insights into that. And I'm guessing that
Yes.
some of this stuff is similar here. If your posture is a certain way, that translates over time. Is that close?
It's like you said, it involved training, so people who sing professionally are trained for that, and so it becomes second nature and habit. Like you were saying, if it like getting in your car and you don't think about it, but you turn on the ignition, you put the brakes on, you don't think about those things. That's the same with singers. They utilize their diaphragm. They open up their belly,
Right. They learn to
and yeah,
breathe.
and it was training.
Yeah.
And I did, when I was doing body work,
Hmm.
I could almost tell when people were like had been a singer or something, because sometimes I would just, my person would be just lying there and I would say, okay, take a deep breath. And some people would do this. And
Your lungs
and
are in your
then
shoulders, right? Yeah.
yeah, and then and they fly up and they become earrings. So right. So a lot of people do what we call shallow breathing,
Hmm.
where they are using a lot of their upper respiratory system to do the hard work of the diaphragm, whereas people that have been trained, um, and babies, watch babies breathe.
Oh.
When when babies breathe, when they inhale,
Hmm.
their stomach extends, and then when they exhale, their stomach like deflates.
Huh. Fascinating.
And because they haven't gotten into the rat race world of everything's on a deadline, and I'm super stressed, and I have to finish this book, and they haven't gotten into that world yet, so they haven't developed a bad habit of using all of these tiny little accessory muscles for breathing, and they're still using the proper muscles for breathing, and that's what singers have learned to do, even if they had to relearn it, even if when they when they started studying singing and they had to relearn, um, that definitely happens. So Dave
It's
was right on when he was talking about the diaphragm.
okay. Well, it's fascinating. It never occurred to me that babies naturally breathe in a way that is, quote, normal. And as adults, hey, I do all sorts of things that I've learned to do over time. They become habits, and we'll just say I have some bad habits, but they feel natural to me because I've
Yeah,
done them for so long.
yeah.
So,
Here's another one to watch.
hmm.
Toddlers who are walking and they drop something. How do they get it off the floor?
Oh, they call mom.
No,
Isn't that the right way to do it?
no,
They start
they're on the
crying.
floor. Not when they're in their high chair.
Okay.
Um, they squat.
Oh
They
yeah.
squat to get it. You watch
I yeah,
Yeah, I bet your little
and
grandbaby, she'll be squatting.
yes, she's already doing that. And the question, so I have to admit, since starting pickleball, I've actually started doing those full body squats where your rear end goes all the way down, like people have been doing all over the world for it seems like I guess centuries. I haven't tracked it
Yes,
directly. And I'm learning to do that full squat where I always thought when I was younger, they taught like the 6 and 8 steering wheel thing, they taught, oh, that's bad for your knees. Now
right.
it's like the fat free stuff they taught me at one point in my life. Now you can eat certain fats. You're actually, this squatting stuff is supposedly very good for you. Is that correct?
Well, like you said, take a look around the world. Look at most of the population of all over the world, in India and Africa, and people squat, and they squat all the way down. And CrossFit, we squat and we call it ass to the grass.
Okay.
But am I allowed to say that on YouTube?
You just
But
did.
but yeah, you're right. Science, information has changed, research has, and it keeps changing. What we learn today is probably going to be wrong in 50 or 100 years. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we,
It
but
evolves.
but definitely. And what does that have to do with narrating? What would squatting have to do with narrating? Well, you have a pelvic diaphragm, and down low under all your organs, and you have a respiratory diaphragm up above, and here's your I'm not good with this camera. Um, your respiratory diaphragm and your pelvic diaphragm and your pelvic floor, and they need to work in concert,
uh,
so that everything is the volume of all of your organs, and the pressure of all of your organs is balanced. So if if all those muscles in your lower body around your pelvic diaphragm are tight,
Yeah.
from sitting too long will make them tight, um, then it's going to affect the balance between that and your respiratory diaphragm, and that's gonna affect your voice. So, it is all connected.
By the way, someone's asking the steering wheel thing. I think it's 3 and 9 o'clock is now what they're recommending. Is that correct? Like
I think it's 6 and 8. I have a little thing about
six
it.
and eight, 6 and 8. No, six would be at the bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, it's 4 and 8. Did I say I said 6 the whole time, and I meant you're right. It's 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. So
Yeah,
that'll
not
be
6,
they're
not
saying on the
6.
bottom side. I thought okay, hey, I have no clue. I thought I had heard them say that they're going to 3 to 9, but you're saying 4 to 8, which is so where they've taken from the top down to the bottom, correct?
Yeah, the
Okay,
opposite yeah, I'm sorry, I kept saying 6, but you're
okay,
right, it's 4. Thank
that's
you, who was that?
yeah. So people are asking, and so we now
Thanks,
got that
people.
straight. Okay, so for those,
Yeah,
that's the bonus for those of you that stayed until till the end here,
yeah,
uh, and you have some other so. Let's summarize this.
okay.
What's the one thing if I haven't done a whole lot in this area or I've done a lot, let's do two cases. I haven't done a lot. What's the thing I could do this week that would make me better and as I move forward? Any ideas?
Move.
Move. Move a little,
Um,
move a lot. I mean, so that would be walking. That would be body weight squats. That would be bending over. Um, walking your dog,
riding your bike.
riding a bike.
And it's springtime now, so, like, get out and non-movement causes pain patterns. So if you have things in your body that are painful and your doctor has okayed you to move, um, then go for it. But as far as, like, correcting things, that might take some time and take some work and take some, more than we have right here to
Okay. And I
to
may
fix that.
also take an outside perspective in that I may not know that I don't know. I mean, this is my whole life. I don't know what I don't know. So without getting a third party perspective, life can be difficult to make adjustments that are an improvement. Okay. Now,
Right.
now let's say I've already been doing some exercises, or some movement. Now, what do you recommend to people?
Um, to try to make sure that you're working in alignment
Ah,
and with, chin tucks and follow my booth health posts
ah.
on my social media or on my website. On my website, I have a whole page with every booth health post I've ever posted. Um and um
Is that your mkbenson.com/coaching link?
that's coaching if you want me to
Okay.
try to assess your work environment and your posture.
And what's your
Um
normal site that has your booth health stuff on it?
it's just mkbenson um
.com. Okay, because I've seen
.com.
it. So I'm gonna put that in the chat. Let me see that I get that right.
Yep, that's right.
And then note because when you go there, there is a link at the top that says booth health. Is that correct? I was on it earlier today. It says
Yeah, there's a Booth Health button, and then there's one that says Booth Health tips,
okay,
and those are the Booth Health Tuesday posts, and they're just little nuggets of little things that you can do, like a little stretch on your way into the booth. Like,
okay,
it's gonna take, like, a minute or 2. Um, or and then the other one is the coaching, and that's where you would schedule with me for a coaching session to assess your posture in the booth.
cool, 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 cool. Well, so make sure you show us the steering wheel thing again. Can you get your hands in the camera? Because people are asking, they want to know. So,
Okay, here's the steering wheel,
uh huh, uh huh.
and we're gonna hold it now I'm totally leaning back, this is totally wrong, but
You're
it's
gonna
I
hold it.
can't get
You're basically gonna do the so in the old days we held them at the top. Let me try to get the camera. And
right,
now
we
you're
held them here.
switching it, and they're having us do the same exact thing, but from the bottom side. But right,
Right, yes,
it's really
and you
just a flip the. If you flip the whole thing from top to bottom, that's exactly what you're getting.
it's reversed, exactly, like a mirror, and
Okay.
you can look up the National Highway traffic
transportation.
transportation
Uh,
council.
yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Well, I'll find that and throw
yeah,
that in the notes. Okay.
right. I mean, that's just one little thing. There's a
Yeah.
whole lot.
And besides, I don't drive as much as I used to, but so just being selfish, I don't care about. No, I care. I drive with one hand too often, and that kind of thing. Like
Or
many,
your knee. My dad would
I've
drive with
done the
his
knee.
knee.
Yes, I've
Yeah,
definitely done the knee. So
don't
it's
do that.
really yes, the driving thing now. Yeah, Larry says it right. It's really underhand, as opposed
Yeah.
to overhand. It used to be on the top. Now it's on the bottom. That makes sense. Now, here's the funny thing. I don't know that that's the most ergonomic way to do it. I have zero clue. But what it is the bigger picture on that, because that's a total side discussion. Everything in life evolves. So what I knew as a kid as the right way to have posture, uh, still may or may not be valid today. And even though it's comfortable for me, doesn't mean I'm doing it as well as I could do it. And if I just took a little bit of time, go to your booth health, check in, potentially get a consultation with you, I probably could be a lot better at it because there's probably things I don't even know I'm doing wrong. Is that close? Is that your
Yep,
experience
yep.
talking to
Or
people?
you can visit your local massage therapist
Hmm.
who might know about myofascial work, or if you live in a bigger city, you might be able to find a myofascial therapist
Okay.
who can assess all these things in person and do hands-on work that will help you, and you will start to feel the difference. You will start to feel, oh, this feels very open. I feel like I can breathe more deeply. This pain in my shoulder blade is going away.
Okay.
So all of those things, you know as far as getting someone else to help you, that I highly recommend that.
Okay. And you do it. So people can look you up and go to your site and book a coaching session. And, I probably need what, 30 of them with you before I'd have any idea of what I'm doing? Is
No, probably 1 or 2 is fine.
okay.
It's just, like, now I just do consulting. I don't do hands-on work, so,
Okay. Okay.
it's just consulting, but, I mean, hands-on, you can't beat it because a myofascial therapist you will know that you've been somewhere and
Okay,
that
but
you've
here's
done
the
something.
thing. I just want to be better in the booth this next week. Then a consultation with you would help me with that. Is that close?
Sure, I hope so. I hope
Okay.
it would help you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. All right.
yeah,
Well, thank you for
yeah.
joining us this week. And hey, and appreciate all the comments out there. I mean, this is great. Anything else that you want to promote coming up that you're doing that's cool? Where people can, oh, I'll bet you're going to be
Yeah.
at the New Orleans thing. And what else?
Well, this week I'm going on Joel Frumkin's cruise, the audiobooks at sea adventure. I
Cool.
don't know if anybody in the group is. Yeah, Andrea All is here. She's definitely coming. We've
Cool,
been
cool, cool.
chatting about what to pack. And so that's exciting. And then after that in May is the New Orleans Splendiferous Johnny Heller's Splendiferous workshop. And that is coming together and it's not too late to join. So
I know you've
so
been a big help with getting that done because you kind of live there, right?
'cause I live here, right,
Yeah.
right.
Awesome.
I pretty much know some of the good spots, not all of them, but, yeah, hopefully we have a ghost and cemetery tour scheduled and a swamp tour and a dinner at a fabulous, seafood restaurant, so, yeah, it's going to be
And people probably
great.
could get a consultation with you on the side, correct? They could
Sure. Oh,
hire you.
I'm gonna do a live, session
Session. Oh, okay,
on
cool.
Booth Health.
Cool, cool,
So
cool.
I'll have visuals. This was hard because I don't have anything, I don't have any slides to
Right.
show or anything, but I'm gonna have slides and all my gadgets and fun
Awesome.
stuff, so
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And then, of
yeah,
course,
thanks for having me.
be sure to subscribe to the channel. Note at 2 o'clock and 2 o'clock. I get the 2 o'clock and 5
It's
o'clock. I have
4
my
and
tech
8, 4 and 8. No.
Yeah, I have VO Tech Simplified later today in a couple hours. You can check on the channel; it's already up there. And so, if you have technical questions or things you want to talk about related to tech and voiceover and narration, be sure to watch that. Send me questions and all. And of course, we're excited. Johnny will be back next week, unless one of these publishers demand that he goes into something. That always could happen, but he's scheduled to be back next week, and we'll have a good time there as well. I don't remember who the guest is next week, but of course, be sure to join us. And as always, it's great to see you. We'll see you again on the wires. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks.